Okay, I'll go to the next one here. This concept centered around taking overheads. I think at the pro level, there isn't too much issue, especially on the guy side, with getting up for every overhead and taking it. I mean, if I was to ask you, what's the most offensive shot in tennis, what would you come up with?
Oh, offensive, it's that approach forehand.
Okay, well, that is certainly offensive. I would say an overhead.
Overhead.
I would say an overhead is the most offensive shot in the game.
Right.
Most overheads are really offensive. Of course, there's a few where maybe you can just get to them. But
Yes.
I find that at all levels of tennis,
Yes.
but especially the lower levels, when a lob goes up, the person is way too quick to just kind of go yours and run to the other side.
Exactly.
And so I encourage all the players I work with, take as many overheads as you can. Let's practice them so you can improve your skill. Let's practice your movement so you can get back for it and do a little better. If you get an overhead, you're going to be a huge chance to win that point. So let's not pass them up, and let's get as many overheads as we can. So here is an example. I'm really impressed with her positioning here. I mean, you can see that the person about to hit the ball is really far back and is in a defensive position. And this lady is standing in the middle of the court in a really offensive position. Really impressed with this at this level. That's fantastic.
Yes.
It's pretty, you could probably see a lob coming here because she's so far back. So a lob comes. And there, I mean, she does an incredible job of jumping for this lob and taking an overhead. Again, so impressed. She hits it at the net person, does really well. Then it goes up again. And on this occasion, you know, she decides to pass up the overhead and let it go. And I've kind of frozen it there, showing where the ball bounced. I mean, that's only, you know, maybe a meter and a half past the service line. And that's a ball I think that she can get for sure to take a second overhead and try and dominate that point. Eventually, her partner actually has to move forward, right, to three-quarter court to take that ball. She hits it, and they end up, you know, losing this point. So, one really good start by the lady who took the first overhead with her jump, and then she let the second one go. And so my message would be, at the recreational level, look for those overheads, take those overheads. They're the most aggressive shot that you can have. So get better at them, practice them, and take as many as you can, and that will certainly make you better at them.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, there's a couple of great examples during this point of her taking that shot, like you said, and going at the opposing net player as well. She did not go back to the baseliner. She went at the net player on the other side, which is...
No, absolutely, because that person has less time, right?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
So she takes that one and fully puts it at the other woman's toes. It's a good dig on the other side, but as you said,
absolutely. But that's a pretty low percentage dig, right? I mean, if you can make someone play that 10 times, they're probably not going to get it back too often. You're going to win that one. So make that happen as much as you can, and I think you're going to be in good shape.
Exactly. Now, you know, what would you say about the baseliner here? You know, one item that I do see quite often, which happened in this point, is when the woman at the front hits her overhead, the baseliner, which is the first person here in the front, is right at, you know, sort of, she's already gone to cover that side of the court, thinking that her partner may not get that. You know, we see that quite often where the baseliner starts moving towards the middle or behind the other player, thinking that the net player will not get it, and then therefore leaving a lot of her side of the court open. And thankfully here did not come back to bite them, but quite often, you know, that player, the baseline, leaves their side thinking their partner will not get the overhead, and then if the partner does get the overhead, that whole half is open. And so, you know, at what point would you say that the baseliner starts to run across and try to cover that lob?
Well, I would say that as soon as the players try to embrace taking the overheads and getting them out of the air, that's going to happen less and less, right? Because now the partner is worried, oh, that's probably going to be my ball because it's gone in the air. And I see a lot, even at the pro level, more on the women's side than the men's side, but the lob goes up and they just kind of run to the other side and yours. And so if we can embrace that, the players can embrace that and get more overheads, that's going to happen less and less. Yeah. But then it's on the part of the baseline, it's really a judgment call, isn't it? It's like, okay, is that going to get over her head or not? And as the net player takes more and more overheads, they're going to be better able to stay on their own side and know, hey, you've got that. And if my partner has an overhead, I'm actually going to run forward, right? I mean,
Yes.
if we're playing together and you get an overhead, I'm going to get closer to the net because I'm expecting something weak to come back. So I think you can gain an advantage in a couple of ways there.
Right. Yeah. So the key message there is definitely, so ball going up, let's take that overhead. Let's not let it drop and go over our heads.
Yeah. And I have one more example here from the pros. I'm going to pause it there because Stritskova, the girl in the net in the white, she is closed pretty hard here. She's pretty close to the net and she's initially wrong-footed by this lob, in my opinion. But instead of giving up on it, she starts to back up really quickly and she takes it and she puts the ball away. So I think that's a fantastic example, and we'll watch it in real I won't stop at this time and just watch. She's forward. So you see she's clearly wrong-footed there, but she gets up and then she takes the most offensive shot in the game, the overhead, and she's able to hit a good one and the point's over.
Right.
Again, for someone that isn't in the top few in the world, that ball might have got over their head and just been, okay, yours, you got it, no problem. I know you're there, you can take it. But no, it's much more preferable for the net player to take it over.
And what's your approach to teaching the, sort of go after that overhead mentality? Like what are some of the key things that you look at with a player when they are getting lobbed too often? Why is that?
Yeah. For starters, we already talked about mentality. Okay, I'm going to get the overhead. The lob isn't my partner's, it's mine. So as soon as you take that mentality and responsibility, I'm going to take it. Then you'll start to move with more urgency and you'll do better with your movement and you'll reach much more. So the first thing before anything tennis technical is mindset. I'm going to get it. I want it. Let me hit it. And then the second thing is, if you can beat the overhead to the service line, you're probably going to reach it. And remember, a lob is a slower ball, right? So it's not traveling like a forehand or a serve. So if you can get your feet going, and ideally you want to cross over, right? Use crossover steps, because then you're going to gain more distance going back rather than shuffling steps. You want crossover steps. If you can beat that ball to the service line, then you're going to reach pretty much everything that you go back to. And then obviously, if you talk about technique, I mean, we can't show that here, but I mean, you want to be sideways. And again, the mentality that I teach is hit the overhead hard. If you're further back and it's a tougher overhead, then hit it more in the middle, right? Because you can't get angle from further back. So hit it more in the middle, but try and hit it hard. And then as you get closer or easier, now you can feel free to angle the ball more. But again, it's the most offensive shot in tennis. The players that do best with it, they don't hit it soft. They hit it quite hard. And even if the ball comes back, it should be a weaker ball coming back because of that mentality. So I hope that helps.
Oh, for sure. So you're saying don't sacrifice the power on that overhead. If it's a more challenging lob, just hit it more into a bigger target, which is the middle.
Absolutely. No question. And again, if you get power on it, you should receive another weaker ball, or maybe you'll get an error.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.